Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast this morning, October the 1st. Fall is among us. The colors of the trees and leaves are changing. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, it means snow is probably coming within the next 6 to 8 weeks. However, we shall overcome. We're continuing our anxiety series, but I did want to make an announcement before we start, and that is that I've had a tremendous amount of feedback on this issue, and I've made a decision that we are going to disable the chat box. I have had easily 20 to 25 emails or conversations prompted by the other, not by me, asking, saying there's too much crosstalk, there's too much, it's very distracting, there's too much advice giving. Um, I come here to hear the material and apply it to my life so that I can make progress. And it feels like, it feels like a noisy park. So I made the decision this morning, and you can exchange emails with each other. If you want to talk, you can exchange phone numbers with each other if you want to get together in other venues. But this is not the venue. I go to an awful lot of time and trouble to bring cross expert information, suggestions, recommendations, skills, strategies, as well as my own. And I don't do that for this to be like a cocktail party. All right. And if anybody has a difficulty with that, please send me an email. I will explain to you one on one, and perhaps advise another way to get that need met. But this venue is not that need. Okay. So today being the first, what we're going to do, take out your pens and paper, is we're going to start by doing a personal inventory. We're going to bring this home to you, your life, your situation. Okay. Now, right now, I'm going to ask you to imagine that there's a situation, just a situation. All right. Maybe it's already happened. And before you and I build the understanding that that situation, whether it's a remembered situation or a current one, is not the only situation in our life. We have to acknowledge that when we want to overcome something, when we want to make progress, and we start to get frustrated and berate ourselves, negative self talk, it's out of context. No, I don't know of anyone who has one challenge one at a time. All right. So put it in context. It's not that situation that kind of niggles at you. It's not the only situation in your life. We also have to factor in that there are always other events. What are those other events? Because at the same time as this one that's griping at us or causing us frustration, we have to do some handling of the other as well. And here's the trick. We have to do it. Every one of us have to do it in the same time frame. It's not like they line up and take a turn. All right. So now I ask yourself honestly, given the situation that you're remembering or you're imagining right now, on the other side of that entry, what problem solving skills did you or would you use to deal with it? And now in the next column, what are you expecting from them? Why are you drawing on those skills and strategies that you already have? All right. How can they actually help you with this new specific upsetting, confounding, anxiety producing, perhaps, situation. Now stop for a second. Okay. How are you able to acknowledge that how much you've already learned? You're not resourceless, you're not skillless. And past learning, even if it's not specifically about this event, you're never without resources. You personally. Now, maybe you don't have enough. Maybe you don't have precisely the right one that does the trick, but we're never resourceless. You're still standing. You must be competent. Okay. And that knowledge, that giving yourself and affirming yourself credit, I'm hoping that for just a second, regardless of how confounded you are, how anxious you are, how frustrated you are currently, all right, that acceptance of I am basically okay. I want and I feel I need more. All right, specific to this, but I'm not without anything. Just for a second, let that permeate. All right. Because that is your first existing resource that will help you not panic, not be self demeaning, all right, not undermine and undo what you already have in the tank in the way of skills and resources. And that, when you give it credit, you take a deep breath, will help you tolerate the uncomfortable feelings and situations. That first flood of anxiety, it will bring it down a notch. All right. Because we have experienced similar things, not exactly. And to what degree does that past experience support us so that with these, when we sit, just sit, all right, don't react. Don't let that hormonal bath wash you full of anxiety, fill you with it. It'll give you a little alarm, yeah. But to what degree does that experience support you, support me, to sit with uncomfortable feelings? Just sit with them. You don't have to be instantly armed. Once that initial intensity, in the form probably of anxiety or frustration, starts to subside, and yes, that is a fact, simply by just sitting with it, not allowing yourself to react. No lie. Mild to moderate fear and anxiety, if we don't fight it. Because as soon as we go to fight, whoosh, we now have a very powerful hormonal bath going straight to our brain. Alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells. It's the hormonal bath from the decision not to just breathe. Okay, what more do I need to know? What more do I need to have? I am not in peril here, and I'm not going to go to demeaning myself or self-blame. I'm just going to sit. Okay? It is no lie, not an exaggeration, not an underestimation, that mild to moderate fear and anxiety, if we don't fight it or hide from it. Don't distract yourself. Okay? Can become helpful. You need to practice. That's your homework this week. As each day hands you an undone or a what about this, or a challenge, or something that normally would cause anxiety. I want you just to, the first thing you ask, you tell yourself is, this is not I'm not in peril. All right. I'm not in peril. I feel like, I'm a little disoriented. I'm frustrated. I'm a little anxious. But you know what? What do I already know? And I'm going to tell you a little story. This is a true story, and it was a serious one in my life. I didn't even know. All right. I was in awful pain, but I'm used to back pain. I was in terrible pain. I thought it's just I could hardly walk. But and this is not a hero thing. This is a stupid thing. All right. I kept going. I didn't sit and think. I kept going. I went to work. I could hardly walk. And I came home and I thought, I can't keep going. This is, this is like big. And I had no answers. I had no answers. And so I sat there and I thought to myself, look, I personally believe, and it's not a faith thing, it's just I've been on this earth 77 years, duh, learn from past experience. Okay, there's something, I would not be facing this if there was something I didn't already know or have. It might not be enough, for sure, okay, but there's something I'm not picking up on here. What is it? And I sat there and my agenda was in front of me. I didn't put it there deliberately, all right? But my agenda was in front of me. So I picked it up. I thought, what am I missing? Like, what do I need? Where is it? How do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Okay. And first step. First step I did was, you have a family doctor here in Canada, and I went to a walk-in because I couldn't get an appointment fast enough. Usually you get sort of the conveyor belt in a walk-in because there's a big lineup. Okay. I was blessed with the dream team. I had the nicest general practitioner who I told him what the problem was. I was in terrible pain and I had a back problem. And he told me the politics of hospital and coached me. He couldn't do it himself because that wasn't his role. He didn't have that possibility. But he told me the how to go about this. And the first was to make contact with a physician with more expertise than a general practitioner, because then there'd be a waiting list. I went home, they're sitting at the kitchen table with my agenda, and I opened my agenda. I think there's something. Okay, you're never sent something that will kill you. You are never sent that. There's always something you can do in part. What is it? And just holding on to that belief, although it was pretty shaky at this point, that's how much pain I was in. I thought, no, 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 we're not going there. We've got nothing if we go there to panic. All right. Got nothing. So I'm flipping my agenda. Lo and behold, I discover that I saw a neurosurgeon 3 weeks before. I am in so much pain. I can't remember that. All right. There was my little agenda sitting there waiting to be discovered. And I looked at it and I thought, 3 weeks, eh? But that was about a different back problem. I thought, I think you're it for tag, buddy. And so I called and I got his office. Again, just the universe sending what you need. I got the loveliest reception who tried to get me to go to Emerge. And I said, I don't have it in me. Like, literally, I do not have it in me to sit in Emerge. And so she said, but being in that much pain isn't good for your morals. She meant morale. All right. And I laughed a little. The fact that I could laugh a little helped, to tell you the truth. Thank you, Lord, for that. And then she said, "Oh, you saw him 3 weeks ago." I said, "Yeah." She says, "He's got a clinic on Tuesday. You just go," she said, "and you don't check in, you just sit." And I said, "Will they let me do that?" And she said, "Don't even look at them. You go sit. And I'm going to tell him before he goes into surgery that she's a little tiny person, like she's a little tiny voice. She's his paid receptionist, okay? She's going to tell him, you need to go down and see her. All right, you saw her 3 weeks ago. All right, so I did what I was told. All right, I went and snuck into the back row, sat down, waited. About 20 minutes later, he poked his head in the door of the clinic. He was operating that day. He wasn't running the clinic. All right. And everybody who works there was very surprised to see him. And he didn't go in, okay, and engage. He just looked around and he said, "You come with me." I went, and he heard what I had to say. He saw me trying to walk, and he said to me, "You're going for a CAT scan right now." And the CAT scan, like, who gets a CAT scan in 10 minutes? Huh? Nobody. And I came back, thank you, Lord. I came back, and he said to me, "You're going for surgery tomorrow." And I said to him, "I can't. I'm supposed to be going to England." Okay, not fully connected to a power source, still living in Wishland. Okay. So I was on the floor in an hour, on the floor in the hospital in an hour. All right. Now, did I get surgery the next day? No, I had to wait a week because a terrible emergency came in overnight and they bumped. All right. But you, if you if you have enough faith in yourself and in the universe, doesn't have to be a religion, you just have faith, that you always have something that adds to the solution. It is not the entire solution. No matter what it is, you always have something. You can't find it if you panic. You can't find it if you don't acknowledge that if you are surviving till now, where in heaven's name is it? And it can be the smallest thing. It can be your agenda. There's always something you know that will lead you to an acceptable solution. Don't give up. So, when you have fear, when you have anxiety, don't fight it. All right? Don't hide from it. Because when you don't do either one of those two things, you're staying in the game. You are creating and using a survival skill that you have. Frustration can be very debilitating. All right. The other thing you're not doing is you're not giving yourself a disabling reaction. No hope, no confidence in yourself at all. All right. But on the other hand, what happens if anxiety occurs on a daily basis and causes fatigue or causes a low level of hypervigilance? Can you see your best solution there is to lessen that by not giving into it and not hiding from it? If you don't, can it then offer you personal benefits that you already have? Remind you of always work from your strengths, even if they feel inadequate, you have them. Why would you disable yourself by negative self-talk? by having to deal with an anxiety attack or a heightened anxiety, heightened fear. There will be fear, there will be anxiety. It's a question of to what degree do you let it fill you? That's why we're doing this whole series on skills and strategies, so that you've got some tools in your toolkit when it jumps up in front of you. It can't disable you if you just don't give the energy to fighting it. You don't give your energy to fear. It can't. You stay in the game. And as long as you're in the game, you can cross that finish line. Now, another truth is accepting that not everything we are as individuals is just about our skills and existing skills and strategies and strengths. Okay, there are other parts to us as well. It's also true that many of the challenges or threats that we face today are kind of hard to figure out. You can feel them, you can feel the effects of them. They're not concrete, all right? Habituation breeds. When you get stymied by that, it may slow you down, but as long as you're still in the game, as long as you're taking one half step forward, A, by not giving up, A, by not disabling yourself with negative self-talk and recrimination, all right? If you choose that, you're habituating, you are breeding more and deeper unhealthy and unhelpful anticipation of what's next. I won't survive if something else happens. Many reactions, whether they're anxiety, whether they're fear, whether they are setbacks, whether they are physical, mental health, whatever, all right, situations. These days, watch TV, okay, watch the news. Many of these are more about psychological reactions, even existential, like, what is the meaning of my life? All right, what is the meaning of my life? And so, is it possible? Because it is, that anxiety, that little first alarm bell, that first little whatever, wherever it registers, however it registers, initially, you're not going to let it get past that stage, remember? All right, you're going to sit with it, you're going to breathe, you're going to do whatever you have to do. I personally like to take a hot shower and watch whatever that challenge is for me that feels, how do I get a handle on this? Watch it go down the drain. That's what I tell myself. All right, it's whatever works for you that is not harmful. So is it possible? This is a trick question because the answer is yes. All right. That anxiety actually can be helpful. Is it? Can be. If you don't let it run away like a runaway horse. In these types of situations, the most helpful question is, what part of anxiety, that anxiety you're experiencing, can be part of your ability to help you adapt? My anxiety about being in tremendous pain actually did do that. It wasn't me. It was just believing in a core value. You are never sent, you are never helpless, ever. You are never helpless. There are better solutions, there are less effective solutions and skills and strategies. What do you feel able to choose from right now? You can always up the quality, up the number, but they will help you learn to adapt. They will keep you from going to your knees. They will keep you from being fully stymied by being overwhelmed. So, is there a part of anxiety that can actually enable us to remind ourselves of our better self? You only need a reminder. You don't need to be in that state because when you can see it, when you can feel it, when you can acknowledge it, you can reach out and find it through the silliest tools, an agenda, an agenda. All right. There's something I'm not telling myself. There's something I don't know. I have it. I don't know it. I don't know where to find it. What do? I do what I can do. Okay. Especially when making decisions or taking actions on an important issue. That is especially important. Don't let the importance of the issue weigh you down. Sit quietly. Remind yourself you're still upright. What do you know that to give you that first step? Just take a second. Have this is sort of a universal, all right, for most people. Have you ever worried about something you said in haste or did in haste? Okay. So sitting here right now, I'm flashing back to some real doozies. All right. I told you my back pain story. I'm not going to tell you the doozies today, but there have been some real doozies. Did I actually say that? Oh, no. Um, has anybody else had that happen? Okay. Okay. Yes. And then, okay, you're kind of silently reflecting on it, right? Thinking, oh dear, that did not come out the way I intended it. Okay. And you're sitting there and you're wondering, how big was the bomb? Okay, that caused. So, and if it bombed, how did it bomb? All right. Did your concern, now, usually at that point, it's pretty embarrassing, but it's not threatening physically. Okay. It's just, you might not want to show your face. Mild anxiety. Did your concern, mild anxiety, a little bit of embarrassment, did it persist? Yeah, it did. Did it kind of nag at you? I don't believe that. Yeah, okay. Until finally you had to know the answer, right? You're going to go out and face these people. You're going to have to make a joke of it. You're going to have to do something, right? Until you finally had to know the answer. All right. So you ask somebody maybe who was there, who was present, did it sound like whatever? And you find out, okay, that actually it did mildly bomb. All right. However, that mild concern, that mild anxiety that you experienced is probably the only thing that gave you a chance to make the matter somewhat right. You knew who to go to. You knew much better how to contextualize it. Maybe you knew how to, so long as it wasn't personally insulting to somebody, you knew how to regain balance and right whatever the side effect was, right? Can you see then that our anxiety, when we keep it at a mild initial level, actually can be an adaptive strategy? It can be something that we get better at because it's going to happen again. All right. Sooner or later, we're going to put our foot in it again because what did it do? It made you aware that something had snagged. All right. That in that transaction, something had snagged. So you then were able to take corrective action the best you could anyway. You might not be able to 100% make it right. All right. But you're always able to make it at least somewhat better. You're able to take the sting out of it or whatever that side effect was going to be that caused you to go, I don't believe it. Okay. Now, the ability to do that, to take that action that you took, almost certainly, I would put my last dollar down on it, right? Was in line with one of your core values. I know that story that is true that I told you about the back pain. When I blew, it turned out I had blown a disc in my back and it was sitting on my spinal cord. We're talking pain here. All right. Never happened before. I didn't know that. I couldn't I couldn't connect those two. Right? I know now. I know go for help a whole lot sooner. Never be your own doctor. All right. And you can be too stoic too. All right. What are your core values? Mine certainly is, and I believe it. You're never given something that you don't have something that you can work with to get you started at least. That's a core value of mine. And many, many times in my life, it has been the thing, it has been the value and the belief that prevented me from giving up and just accepting less than was possible. What it definitely does, you listening to your own core fundamental values and beliefs, it almost certainly, probably actually, helps you do your best in that situation. Not perfectly, it's not the solution, but it is the first step to a better, best you're capable of. All right? And it's always, always good enough. It's also a well-known fact that, and how many of you have had this experience? Work performance and speaking in public is a common concern causing anxiety. It can be part of the fear of failing. Remember in Jane Burke and Lenora Ewan's book, Procrastination, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being controlled. It can be part of our fear of failing. And when we fail, it doesn't feel good. It can, even if nobody else knows, it can be embarrassing to us. Also, it can be part of falling short of our personal standards. I expected I could do better than that. What does that say about me? Maybe I'm not. Right? And that'll cause anxiety. Mhm. It'll also suck the motivation out of you. But if you can hold on to your value, your belief that if you're still standing, you have enough. You have enough to at least get started on this voyage to solution. And it will won't eliminate, but it will quiet the anxiety. It will quiet the fear. All right. And allow you to work harder and perform perfectly. No, forget perfection. Forget ideal in these circumstances. It'll also help you to perform better. Not perfectly, but best in the moment. And that moment is always all you've got, the current context. That current context isn't permanent. That's why we call it current. It is adaptable. All right. It's not necessary in every single thing we do that we have to always do our best right away. We have to do even better. That's taking the principle too far. Our first step should always be work. Write this one down. Work from your strengths, and you have them. Yours are different from mine. Yours are built on what you've already overcome, what you've already achieved. They get better, stronger, and more diverse. Does it surprise you to hear that mild anxiety episodes often, when you allow yourself to learn from them, even if that learning is just, I never want to repeat that again. That's learning, all right? Makes each and every one of us, when we do it, more capable to face and handle the next life challenge. It's worth doing, not perfectly. Don't assess it at the end. If you've done your best in the moment, you can always add to it later. It can also happen that when anxiety is allowed to be disproportionate to a real threat, we let it run away like a runaway horse, run away with us. Okay. It can feel extra severe, like not even realistically severe. We're giving it that extra power when we don't do what we now know is a really sensible, usable, applicable first step when we get fear and anxiety. It can feel extra severe. And you know what? When it feels extra severe, there's only one thing that's going to happen. It's going to interfere with our functioning. You are not going to do as well when you let it run away with you. And when it interferes with our functioning, we are no longer working from our strengths. We just gave it away. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. Whatever you have in life experience has taught you something that you can use to start and to keep you going until you find a better resource. Now, anxiety isn't a one size fits all. Anxiety can differ, and so can people's experience with it. Why? Because it triggers us. This is not a happy experience, but it is universal. There's a difference between occasional severe anxiety and persistent, high distressing, poorly controlled anxiety. The second one, I would suggest you go to your doctor. All right. You ask for treatment so that it brings it down within the range that you can stay upright, you can stay in the game. Anxious thinking always centers on rather the perception, the feeling of threat or danger to ourselves or somebody else who's important to us in our life. But remember, write this one down. Feelings aren't facts. They are important. We need to know what our feelings are. We need to respect them. We need to give ourselves time to adjust and not be controlled by the feeling. All right. But the feelings are just the production, usually from that hormonal bath, all right, of a reaction to something. We can't know everything. We don't know everything. So our feelings are just a visceral way to experience and kind of quantify, categorize what we're experiencing. They're not facts. There's always more to it. And in that more to it, there's always a way to deal with it good enough. If we give in to feelings, if we treat them like they're the Bible's truth, all right, it can generate a tendency to automatically think the worst because those feelings are an alert system. Anxiety is an alert system of something that is negative is out there or is going to happen right in front of us. Well, we don't make it better by always thinking the worst. That just undermines our ability to adapt. You can't make a better choice if you always go to magnify at the worst. And you're wasting an awful lot of energy. Okay. There are difficult situations, but the worst when it's not true, all right? You don't save yourself. You don't prepare yourself better when you exaggerate whatever the threat is. What gets you through? What helps you out? The negative can only make it worse, exaggerating the negative. Staying in touch with our strength, go to our strength, helps us access positive beliefs. When I sat there with that calendar, all right, it was no, there's something you're not seeing. What is it you're not seeing? Now, I didn't know it was there. It wasn't like I had a little feeling in the back of my head. I didn't. But just the belief. No, there's always something. What is it? Okay. And the best positive belief you can always have, no matter how much you foul up, is a positive belief about yourself. Well, that wasn't my finest hour. Well, that is not who I am. That's what I did, but that's what I accomplished, but that is not my best. That is not the positive side of me. And that ability to stay upright, good enough, having a positive belief, regardless of the consequences or the side effects, all that's going to do. If you can't get there and hold on to that, it's like being thrown out of a boat and you're holding on to the edge of it. All right? You're going to get back in the boat. If you flounder and the boat tipped over and it's deep water, you're going to find out how deep that water is. All right? Because you're going to drown out your possibilities, your strengths with anxious beliefs. And all that's going to do is remind you of your vulnerabilities, how vulnerable you feel. You can exaggerate that into helplessness, into hopelessness. But that's not the truth either. So the next question is, what do you think of when you feel anxious? Where do you go to first? Where do you go first? Now, maybe not, it's not how you overcame difficult situations in the past. A great strategy, though, is to catch your anxious thinking. Catch it right away. Be aware of it, hear it, catch it. All right. Identify what are the unwanted thoughts in that. What is the negativity? You're not defining the circumstance, you're defining what you've added to it by negativity. Because that event itself is just a situation that exists, right? Are you going back to past experiences, past images, past memories? Now ask yourself this, because sometimes this is the first place you really can get a handle on what's happening. Where do those reactions register first in your body? And catch them at the first landing strip. Where is it for you? What we don't want is ineffective coping strategies, right? So pay attention, honor your body, respect it. It's trying to tell you something. And it's telling you what you need to know, what you need to be aware of at the spot that it registers in you first. Don't wait for the second, third, fourth, my stomach's in a knot. Where does it register? Because if you pay attention to that, that's sort of like the lighthouse in a storm. It'll help you discover what is ineffective about the way you're coping. And that's going to get you far more prepared, far readier to troubleshoot that, to start asking yourself the right question. Now, in ineffective coping strategies, we want to identify, I want you to identify that as part of the pattern that kind of pulls you off track. But effective coping strategies that help you troubleshoot, that's our topic for next week. You take care, everybody. Have an absolutely great week. We'll see you then.
Can you do it?